First of all, I identified what my strengths and weaknesses were. And I knew that with my amount of performing experience, I knew that performing, I have that down. I'm confident with that. And I knew that I didn't need much work. You can always improve, of course, but that was one thing I was confident with. My songwriting, pretty good. I knew could be better. The only way to be a better songwriter is to write with better writers. And that was one thing that I've learned. You know, the more you collaborate with other people, you learn a lot about the world around you and who you are as an artist and a songwriter. And you don't do that by writing by yourself in your basement. It's just not how it works. You go into a city that's bigger and better, and you write with people that are better, and that's how you get better. For me...
Wait, unless you're a terrible musician, and now this is my advice, right? Because I almost do the same thing, except since nobody will be my friend.
I'll be your friend.
What I do, okay.
Want to write with me?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, no.
But that means this is the way you get, this is how you do it. Pure like sympathy.
This is how, now I feel bad.
No, you're right. So anyway, or what you do is like myself, I like just sitting down and learning new songs to cover is like giving like just open open ideas that I would never figure like what is this, like that can go with that. So we were sort of talking before, like I'm not a theory guy, neither are you, right? So like having those experiences I think really kind of widen your...
And that's part of it too for me, right? So that, you know, like I said before I had even moved to Toronto, once I was done university, I spent probably a full, and I still do this to some extent, but I had spent probably 1 or 2 years in my basement at home practicing everything that I could. So I would practice my vocals, my guitar playing, because I wasn't very good. I made myself learn because I knew that would be, you know, a good tool in helping to push my songwriting forward and for me to play live. And I would practice my piano, and I actually would make myself go over theory just for myself, because I got to a point where I was actually, at that age, I was actually interested in learning it. It's not funny. It's not funny how that changes.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I had no interest at all.
And you have to be interested.
Yes, because it's one of those things. Honestly, I really do think that, and I feel like...
Well, it's learning a language. I think that's when people... I think that's a thing that people just sort of pass by. Mm-hmm. Is that some people can learn music and some people... No, anybody can learn music. Absolutely. You just have to understand you're learning a new language.
Yes.
And you have to think about it that way, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to trip.
No. Oh my gosh, please interrupt more. Hello, my name is AJ. Honestly, I did that every single day for probably anywhere between 8 and 10 hours a day. I would be in the basement, and I would allocate a few hours for each thing that I thought needed work. And I did that for 2 years, where I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm comfortable. I can play by myself now. I don't need a band behind me, or I don't need to sing karaoke. I can do it. Not that there's anything wrong with that. For me,
okay, stop, because I totally, absolutely understand all the caveats you're fucking laying out there. But you and I both know, and this is coming from a guy who's been talking about using backing tracks.
Okay, hang on.
Yep.
I play with backing tracks though,
yep.
So there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
I'm just saying for myself, I wanted to be able, I didn't want to give anybody any reason to say no to me for anything.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that my vocals were on point. I wanted to make sure that my live performance was on point. I wanted to make sure I could play at least 2 instruments, enough to be able to accompany myself. Not that I need to be, this crazy shredder or anything, but now I'm at that point. I wanted my songwriting to be good enough that I can, record and sing my own music live, potentially, pitch it to other people, see if they're interested in working with me. And I did all of that. I forced myself to read books all the time, which I know that sounds so silly, but that helps so much, especially with songwriting. And that was one thing that I dismissed.
Books, nothing to do with music.
No, but also music as well, but actually reading books, making myself actually go and buy novels and read, and because that was one thing I didn't really do that. I would find I would reach a lot of roadblocks when I was writing because my vocabulary wasn't that great. And not that it was bad, but I definitely wanted to be better, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And just forcing yourself to listen to music of all genres, because they help to trigger other ideas as a songwriter too. But anyways, long story short.
No, but all of that stuff is really important, because I think that's the stuff that really gets glossed over, right? Like, you hear these stories, at least I do. I'm a guy, obviously I like doing this stuff, so all the stuff I listen to is these kinds of interviews. Okay? So maybe nobody else spends their time listening to these guys. But when I hear these interviews, you kind of hear the same sort of trope. So like, oh, you know, I battled with mental illness and I worked my way through. It's like, if I'm staring out my fucking window for hour number 7.
The visual that you're creating is just staring at your window.
Been there.
No, but for real.
Been there,
yeah,
right?
I feel like we all have it.
Sometimes that really is what it is. It's just sort of like not knowing what to do to the point where you can't convince yourself to do anything. Mm-hmm. And when you're sitting through that, you feel like you're the only person to ever go through that moment.
But that still happens, you know, even for me. You still have moments where you work so hard and you accomplish things that you're like, holy crap, like I'm freaking, I accomplished something and I feel so great about myself. But then, you know, things come down again and you go, okay, now what? And then you go through this whole
phrase.
But listen, and that's, I feel, where a lot of musicians sort of lie. Musicians and artists and bands that are out there trying so hard to make it, and you have a little bit of success and then it gets taken away from you, and you have, you know, moments of, you know, you're just kind of like laying there doing nothing, and that's extremely difficult. That's a very hard pill to swallow, you know?
I think especially for writers, but creatives across the board. So I've been lucky enough, I've talked to people in a bunch of different genres, and these stories are basically, they're so similar, right? I think those moments that we sort of spend staring out the windows or whatever are the recharge moments. Like, and I'm getting to the point more and more now where I start to get pissed off with myself for wasting my time being pissed off at myself for the wasting time stuff. Because like at the end of the day, what you realize is like, oh, I just needed that recharge. Yes. I needed that time away.
That is one thing that I've learned, that, you know, like I spent those 2 years working on myself so much, but I would get frustrated, and I found I would work myself to the point where I would be like, okay, like why is nothing happening? And then you freak out. But it's, you know, it's so important to recharge and just like allow yourself to just breathe sometimes and do nothing. Like that's really okay. Where the problems lie, you know, that's where you're doing nothing all the time, and you're not
when
actually
you decide
not doing anything for weeks and weeks and weeks. Then, you know, that's where you run into problems.
Easy to fall in that trap, though.
For sure it is. But once in a while, like, you deserve to have some time off where you're not just like killing yourself trying to work on your craft all the time.